on top of a small hill between the village, where he no longer knew a single person, and the elf forest, where no human was allowed to live. Peacalf the outcast cried and cried, his red eyes swollen even redder. Welcome to Bible study, because we're talking about the gospel that is Berserk. Open your text to chapter 97, the Lost Children's Arc. An arc with so much sauce, so much drama, so much poetry, that it could have been fleshed out as a whole manga series in and of itself. About a vengeful, ignorant, and abused girl, given the power of God. Her story is one of the forgotten stories of the warring times in human history. I always make comments while reacting to Berserk saying, imagine the amount of generations that were born due to grape. I gotta figure out how to throw that one up in there without throwing it up in there, if you know what I'm saying. Because, YouTube be bugging. But the amount of generations born due to otherworldly acts after pillaging after a war or raid. In a time before fathers can confirm paternity, virginity was the most important thing a woman could have when finding a mate. And for men, money and status. Let's keep it being. But sadly, that wasn't enough for the count. Now only Papa Girl's cherry is cool and all, but if you were a man in that era and you went knee deep and no cherry was popped, and you heard rumors about her, well, it's kind of GG. Berserk never fails to surprise me, because I always make hypothetical situations in my head, thinking about what everyone else isn't thinking about. And Berserk always seems to illustrate these very obscure, forgotten, but interesting storylines. Pretty much Berserk be hopping into my daydreams while I get lost in this world and brings these thoughts to life. And it's so cool because every time I ask myself a question, it seems to answer. It's like you play a piano. You play a question and you play the answer. You get goosebumps. Just as I thought. What happens to the children born from pillaging? Kentaro answered by saying they are abused by an uncertain father and the behelit was their only escape. Let's talk about Rosine a bit. Let's give her a little bit of backstory. Rosine was possibly born. We don't know because, paternity is a thing they do not have at this time. Rosine was possibly born of a random barbarian, a random demon in the battlefield that decided to force himself upon Rosine's father's wife. Ever since then, the father has questioned Rosine as being his real daughter. Rosine had to grow up with the abuse and the lack of love from both her parents because her mom was too busy trying to stay alive because that dude was throwing haymakers. Rosine's father was throwing haymakers and it was horrible. Rosine had to grow up her whole life either being at home and taking abuse from her father or being in the forest, being on the streets and just having fun playing with Jill. Those were her really two options. She really hated going home. When she got home, she wasn't met with a warm dinner. She wasn't met with, how was your day going? She was met with a father who was saying, instead of saying hello, you're not even my daughter and you decided to come home late. You had your mom worried sick about you and had to deal with that bullshit. That's what she had to deal with. And she felt like she was doomed to a life that horrible. Life was somber for Rosine. But the most disturbing scene in this whole mini arc here was the kids playing war. They have a strong disgust and distrust for adults and they decide to do something so barbaric. What makes this more jarring than regular wars fought for land, sovereignty, or resources is that they are smiling and laughing and having fun mutilating each other. It feels like irony, poking fun at the barbaric natures of adults. But there's something that makes this even sadder for me. They're aware of what adults do. But the scary thing and the unresponsible thing is they're not aware of why adults do the things they do. So we're not going to condone the abuse and the bullshit, of course. But when it comes to wars, when it comes to things like that, they're too young to understand the dark sides of the world, that humans are innately tribal. All they see is the adult's barbaric acts, and this point is emphasized when the elf says adult attack, turns into a literal monster, and proceeds to force himself upon the other helpless elf. The thing that shocked me the most about that scene was how random and unexpected it was. I was able to find some comfort for the children, because at least they lived in an oasis, freed from the perils of adult greed. But to see that even their wonderland was corrupted by their trauma was heartbreaking to the point of disgust. This is followed up in chapter 110 where Rosine literally says,
"The funny thing is that we are only playing human, yet this jelly human hates us so much."
Then the murderous elves echo her saying,
Yup, and preach on.
Nigga, this shit is fucked. When I seen that shit, it was so creepy because they gave kids so ignorant to the world so much power. That's like giving a 5-year-old a Glock with no safety and telling them it's a toy gun. He's catching bodies. I'm gonna say it one more time. He is catching bodies. It shows how naive the children are. They see the adults' actions, but are ignorant to the cause of these actions. They fail to understand that in a world where scarcity exists, conflicts are inevitable. Even in heartfelt moments like the one where the demon child is humanized, it's hard to paint her as a monster. Well, when your emotions get the best of you and you are almost certain that your future is going to be full of despair, it's really hard to blame anybody for making that sacrifice, selling their soul to the devil or to God. If you think your life is already over, immortality at the expense of the lives of the ones who burden you the most looks like a great deal. Berserk did something that is really hard to do well. They painted the hero to be a monster and the villain to be a traumatized soul, dehumanizing the protagonist and humanizing the antagonist. This can be seen when Rosine is pretty much dying under that tree, looking like a Menma. When Jill and Puck are having that heart-to-heart with her, when we start going to her backstory to really see that the show just a hurt, abused, and vulnerable girl, given the power of God, and with no checks, with no balances. There was nobody there to tell her she was wrong because she never respected the authority figures in her life, and also they were no longer in her life at that point. And then this is juxtaposed with Guts coming out of that water looking like the most nefarious, felonious water monster. He comes out that bitch, the art is crazy. The water looks so calm, but Guts looks so uncalm. With the scratchy sketch-like nature of the drawing, it really delivered the sheer rage that was within Guts. He was never mad at Rosine for being Rosine. He was mad at Rosine for being an apostle. When we see the really human side of Rosine, and Guts fails to see this human side of Rosine also, it just makes it 100 times easier to see Guts as being the monster here. Rosine insults Puck by calling him Peacock. The irony is that she meets the same fate as Peacock, running back to the only love she knew when it was far too late. Wonder what's for dinner. Bro, Berserk has been crazy. Berserk is an uncut cacophony of coldness. There is no other way to describe it. Bro, I'm currently on chapter 160. Let me see. So y'all need to be safe in the comments. I'm currently on chapter 169. This shit is crazy and poetic. We have a man here who lacked identity his whole life and traded his nothing for everything in a way. Even in his weakened state, he still contemplated becoming a somebody under the religious blockhead who tortures and kills other heretics. Nigga, this shit is code. Another video may be dropping soon, either talking about the symbols in Berserk, the dream motif, or the account. I was told that things kind of taper off after Griffith sacrificed his brethren to become a god hand, to become femto. Nigga, that shit was a lie. This shit got colder. This Lost Children arc and how it kind of led us to the current arc I'm reading right now, where they're at the refugee camp and shit is kind of lining up again for another feast. Shit's gonna be wild. Cannot wait to finish this series. Cannot wait to drop these videos. But yeah, man, there's elephant in the room. We just hit 1K. Yes, sir, bruh. We're not going to the moon. We going to the fucking stars, bro. We're going through clapping alien chains and coming back to Earth, my nigga. 2021, we're going up. In 2022, we're going sky high. I appreciate your niggas for that shit for real, because it's been a grind. But the grind has not stopped. It's just slowed down while niggas been catching up on Berserk. Let's keep it a beam. Kiss you on the left cheek, slap on the right. I'll see y'all when I see y'all, man.